how did you get into the field of journalism?
It has been a roller coaster. It has been very exciting.
Challenges that you might have probably faced.
Given an area, you have to bring news from this particular area, and you don't know where to begin.
You have observed the changes or the development in the way in which news has been reported or consumed.
Who has a smartphone is also a journalist. Can break the news almost as fast as you can.
Hello everyone, welcome to LPU podcast. I'm your host Srijani Panigrehi, and today I'm incredibly excited to have someone here who needs absolutely no introduction in the field of journalism. Please welcome Mr. Atul Sangar. Sir, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir, so let's start from the beginning of your journey. You have had such an inspiring journey in the field of media and journalism. So could you please let our viewers know how it all started? How did you get into the field of journalism and what really attracted you about it?
Well, when I came into journalism, there weren't very many areas where we had the opportunity to break into journalism. There was usually the print media. This was in the year 1993. And I had done my mass communication from Punjab University. So there was an opportunity of reporting as a stringer for the Indian Express in Chandigarh. And I got this opportunity, and that's how I started. It was just a stroke of luck. I would not attribute it to any great qualities on my part. It was just a stroke of luck. And thereafter, of course, one has to work hard at one's profession. And then I became a staffer there, and then I went into the Statesman. I was in reporting career for about 9 years. And then I was in digital journalism with the BBC for the last 23 years. And then I came out of BBC as one of the editors with the BBC World Service in Delhi. And it has been a roller coaster. It has been very exciting. The reporting years were probably more exciting, but the digital journalism phase, particularly in the last 5 or 7 years when digital journalism has been changing its form and shape very quickly, that has been very challenging and exciting as well.
Okay, so you said it's been a roller coaster, right? So all of us know how difficult it is to step into something new, to get into something new in our lives. Could you acquaint us to some of the challenges that you might have probably faced in the beginning of your career?
See, the challenge begins right from the time you enter into journalism. One may have some great grandiose notions about journalism or about anchoring, about other such stuff. But when you come to it and you are handed out an assignment and you are given an area, you have to bring news from this particular area, and you don't know where to begin. So that's a big challenge. And for the first month or so, I was wondering, what the hell am I supposed to report on? So I started reporting on the civic amenities, lack of civic amenities in and around Chandigarh. And gradually, as I began to report about lack of civic amenities, there were some people who noticed. And then when one starts going into the bureaucratic circles and meeting people, then they understand that this is a person who you can deal with, and then you start getting stories. So as a reporter, getting something from the field, from zero, is a big challenge, and one has to work very hard. The other challenges come your way when midway through your career you realize that probably print is not the place to be, because print is soon going to give way to either television or digital. And I suddenly found myself in a medium which was going to become obsolete very soon. This was in 2002. So then I started looking for options, and I found an option with the digital in BBC. So one has to keep looking for options. One has to be ready for the change, and one has to grab one's opportunity when it comes. So it's important. Challenges should be embraced. As soon as you embrace your challenges, you step out of your comfort zone, you can be pretty sure that sooner or later you're going to be successful.
I think that is wonderful. And as you mentioned, print media is more or less going out of the scene. So, how do you think we have seen the increase in broadcast journalism, in digital journalism? So, how you've been in the field for pretty long. So, how would you say you have observed the changes or the development in the way in which news has been reported or consumed throughout the years?
Well, I can claim to be that generation, which was the last generation to use fax, telex, and of course the typewriter too, for reporting one's news. So if I was asked to report something from the border in Punjab, I would go there, collect all my stories, and if it is Amritsar is the closest city, then I would come back to Amritsar, type out my story, and with that typewritten story, go into the telegraph office, show them my card, my organization's card, and tell them to fax my story across to my office. And this was the way it was done. The other quicker way of doing it, if one had an office in Amritsar, was to sit down at the teleprinter and type out your story with the relevant signages and everything, and send your story across to the office where it is going to be edited. Now, this used to be the staple thing. Or if this was getting till late, then one would call up earlier, make a lightning call, and later make an STD call to the office, dictate the story, and let them know what it is. So, and in this, while still being in print journalism, we saw the phase where we made our email IDs for the first time. We were told by our organization, where we had earlier been using intranet, the connections between the computers in our offices and our offices, where local office and the head office. So beyond intranet, we started using net and email IDs and sending our stories through the email IDs. And this probably we were doing in 2000, 1999, 2000, 2001. So some of the very active, dynamic news organizations, they would ask us to send our stories via the mail. So for the first time, when I was told there was a big 2002 elections, Punjab elections, Mr. Badal Senior, he was canvassing in a sort of a carriage, a rath, which came to be later all around the place. So I was asked, send us the story by mail, but also send us the picture, a JPEG picture. So I took some time to understand and realize, what are they asking for? Okay, JPEG picture. Then one of my more computer literate friends made me understand that this is the format in which you have to send it. So just as you're sending the text, similarly, we'll take the picture, we'll download the picture, and we'll send the picture as well. And we started sending the pictures too. This is how it began. Thereafter, of course, we have known that the recordings would be sent, and right in front of us, we saw the mobile phones come in, mobile recordings on the mobile phone. And earlier on, when we saw the phase in 2008 and 9, when people said, you will have to change your journalism. Why change the journalism? Because you're no longer going to be read on a big screen. You're not going to be read on a big, even a laptop. You're going to be read on a mobile device. Many of us started laughing. I remember having this conversation when one of our senior editors from London came in, and he said, you're all going to be read on this small device. So how is it possible? Has it happened earlier? Yeah, in Brazil, people are reading it like that. In North America, people are reading news like that. Most of us did not believe it. It was only in a few years' time we realized that not just the laptops, almost everybody was using mobile phones to read the news. So we have seen that transition. From that transition, now when we step into today's phase, there are so many different modes, formats, platforms which we use for digital media. It has been not just the videos or the audios. You have the podcasts. You have the rich text stories, which include all your illustrations and so many different tools, and within the same story to aid the easy understanding of the story. And this, in many ways, they can be the other side of the coin too. In many ways, it has made the technological advances and the changing forms of digital media, they have made journalism and storytelling easier. And therefore, it is the big challenge before the journalist today, because almost every citizen who has a smartphone is also a journalist. So almost every citizen who has a smartphone can break the news almost as fast as you can. Almost every citizen can tell a story in her or his way which might compete with your storytelling. So the challenges for the journalist, for the professional, for the digital media professional are very many. How do you make your story distinctive? How do you use distinctive tools to make it attractive and simple for people to follow? And what platforms do you use? How do you send your story across to your audiences? Some story which will interest them, which they have not already read or seen or done themselves. Yeah.
So I think now journalists are not only competing with other journalists, but with every single citizen out there with a smartphone.
Absolutely.
Right. So, sir, you've been through a whole lot of evolution and a whole lot of change. Has there been any one significant event or any one significant, suppose an interview that you have conducted, that has moved something in you, that has changed you personally?
It's not an interview, but it was a series of happenings. We're sitting in Punjab, and we are sitting in Jalandhar, incidentally. So, in 1996, lots of Punjabi youths have been going to foreign lands. Many of them legally, very many illegally. In 1996, Christmas or a day after Christmas, a heavily overloaded boat capsized off the coast of Malta. And in that, there were 167, if I remember correctly, Punjabi youths from Punjab, and a few dozen others from some other states, and also from Pakistan, a few from Pakistan. They were all illegally trying to go into Europe. That was a time when the issue was not that well known, though in the villages and around, lots of people were making a beeline for the Western countries, particularly Europe. So, in covering that story, the story had, of course, broken off the coast of Malta in Europe. The families were here. You can imagine 167 youths. That means 167 families. So, and spread over probably about 25 or 30 villages. And every one of those villages had these traumatic, emotional scenes, which, as I moved from village to village, at that time I was with the Indian Express, as I moved from village to village, interacted with so many families, interacted with the younger audience, younger people, and I realized that there were many, many dimensions of that entire story. There was the economic dimension, there was the division of land as we go from one generation to the other. So economic viability of the families was getting affected. The youths were making desperate attempts to find some employment, but they were not getting anything relevant here. They were ready to take this risk and take a risk with their lives to go into other places, far off places, unknown to them, to do similar kind of labor or work over there. It was a very moving story. It was an extraordinarily moving story. I still remember um, in many villages, when they share their grief, when the women folk share their grief, they embrace each other and they wail very loudly. And those screams and wailing, those could be heard from as one entered the village, and they would shake you up. And some of those images, people who remember that story, some of those images were carried in the Indian Express, I think all over the northern editions, and they were stories from Jalandhar, and it made me think that these issues which are connected to livelihood, to the future of youths, to the governments in very many ways, to the educational and the social setup which prevails, these stories need to be told more rather than just the statements of politicians, the statement journalism, which is so much in vogue even now. The stories from the ground, the stories from the field need to be told if we want to arrive at a real understanding of where our society is and where we are headed.
That was very deep. I think in such situations, it is really difficult for a journalist to know how to present the story because it's sensitive matters. So we all know about the conflict between having biases. I would like you for the last, we are coming to the end of the podcast, just like a one-liner tip for everybody, budding journalist out there, on how to just stay objective and be neutral.
To stay objective and to be neutral, you must interrogate the subject and the question in front of you very honestly. You must be prepared to see and analyze the various facts which are available, keeping aside whatever your own views are. Be ready to face those facts and take those facts and weave in a story which you may like or you may not like. Your personal liking is immaterial. You have to deliver an honest, objective product. Because if you are a carpenter and you are given a certain design and you are making let's say a charpai or a cot, you will have to go by the logic of that design, irrespective of whether you like it or not. So one must face facts, one must be ready to take on facts. If there are conflicting facts, if there are people who are giving conflicting facts, then go deeper. If you need to include all, attribute and include all.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was such an insightful session with you. I think you've been such an inspiration to all media enthusiasts. And with that, we come to the end of today's podcast. And thank you for tuning in.